And I think internally they do want to believe in him. And then last night doing what he did with the Cubs and playing and pitching as well as he did was a really good sign. That's a great sign. And, again, timely hitting by the replacements and all that other stuff. And it just seems like a really good team right now in a great spot. I think most of the guys are, maybe Lindor is still struggling a little bit, but I think most of the guys seem to be really into it, having a great time. This is almost like it was a couple years ago. Remember towards the end of the season when they found their rhythm, they were winning games, and Pete Alonso was leading the charge, and they were ripping off each other's jerseys on game-winning hits and things of that nature. So I kind of feel like they're back where they need to be, and due in large part to their starting pitching. And Trevor May, not so great. Hasn't been as good as advertised when they signed him. But be that as it may, it's a solid win. And it's a solid win against a really good team. And this is the second in this group of the schedule now till the beginning of July, where, watching this segment of their schedule is going to be, I think, telltale about where they are as a team and what Sandy Alderson and Steve Cohen are going to try to do at the trading deadline to enhance this team when they get to that point. But up until the All-Star break, this is going to be their real tough stretch. And it's so far so good. Taking the series from the Padres and now taking the first game of 4 games against the Cubs is key to try to win this series as well. So I couldn't be any happier as a Met fan, honestly. There are certain things that, you want to see improve, but not everybody's all going to be playing their best game at the same time. And the fact that you can win with some replacements here and there and guys hitting big home runs, this is exactly what you want. This is called depth. This reminds me of the Yankees a few years back when, they had all those injuries.
They had the 2019 New York Yankees.
And guys out of nowhere, all of a sudden, getting a chance to play every day and making a name for themselves. So it's good, man. I feel good as a Met fan. I really do. I feel comfortable. I feel confident. And I know that this group that is running the Mets now will definitely make additions at the trading line where they see fit.
Sure. And, of course, there's other big contracts coming up for them, but I don't believe that Steve Cohen, if he feels like he's got a playoff team or a World Series team on his hands that needs some reinforcements, is going to stand pat. He's just not.
Absolutely
This is a man in his press conference. His opening press conference talked about winning a championship in a short amount of time. What did he say? In a 3-year timeline, something like that?
And keep the fluid to the top.
Well, yes, that's more than fluid to the top.
Right.
That is a lot of pressure on this team and everybody else.
So, you speak of big contracts, right? So yesterday I just wanted to go back and kind of, because we do have the Islanders tonight against the Lightning. And I'm telling you, folks, the Lightning will come out hard and heavy tonight. They are going to come out. And they're going to be flying all over the place. If anybody watched the Vegas Golden Knights last night, you could see that is a dominating team. That is just a dominating team, and the Canadians are really going to have a hard time with them. So whoever comes out of the Lightning and the Islanders are going to have their hands full, because I believe it's going to be Vegas. And they are big, they are fast, they have everything that you want, and they have a cup-winning goaltender, Marc-Andre Fleury. But I was looking at contracts yesterday. And I just wanted to compare.
You love a good contract.
I'm big on the sports contracts.
Yeah, you're huge on the.
But I know that Conor McGregor made more money than any other athlete in the world.
That's
in the
including
last year.
everything.
Everything.
Well, because he sold that whiskey,
but he made more money than any other athlete in the world. Over $180 million.
Okay.
Dak Prescott's on that list. Ronaldo's on that list.
Yeah.
A lot of big names on that list. So I went back and I was like, how are none of the Nets on this list? Because I was thinking that this year alone, Harden will make $41,254,920.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Irving will make $33,460,350.
This is Jerry's favorite conversation.
Kevin Durant will make $40,108,950 for a total of those 3 guys on the Nets.
Yeah.
$114,824,350 this year alone.
It's a lot of wood.
That is a lot of wood. Now, moving forward, the Nets still have them for 2 more years each. Okay, so Harden will be making over $91 million over the next 2 years.
Okay.
Durant will be making over $83 million over the next 2 years, and Kyrie Irving will be making $71 million over the next 2 years. So, if they don't get it done at one of these points here, this is going to be like a total waste of money by Sean Marks and Joe Tsai and everybody over there at the Nets. But the point being is that if you compare it to the Islanders and their entire roster of 26 players, the entire roster for the Islanders cost $81,357,016.
Wow.
So 3 guys are almost at $115 million. 26 guys are at about $82 million.
That's remarkable.
Is that remarkable or not?
Yeah, no, it is. It really just shows you the discrepancies.
Right. So, by the way, the Nets pay 15 players $166 million, double what the Islanders pay 26 players. And the Penguins are the highest spending team in the NHL at a little bit over $86 million. And the Nets are like the second highest paid team right behind Golden State.
Golden State, who went way past the luxury tax threshold.
Right. So it's interesting thinking. I was listening, Steve Nash said yesterday, we have some things that we're working on behind the scenes, to make the loss of Kyrie Irving and James Harden, less impactful and things that I'm thinking. Like, what are they doing? Are they trying to trade for like Steph Curry or something? It sounds like to me like that would be the road that they would go down.
Yeah.
But it's interesting though when you start looking at all this money and the amount of money that the Nets have spent and really what they've gotten in return for that has been they paid Kevin Durant the first year. He didn't even play.
That's right.
Right. The second year,
is now,
and then you also have Kyrie Irving who opted out last year in the bubble.
Right. Also had an injury.
Right, but he opted out in the bubble, didn't want to play down there. So you think about the amount of injuries that these players have had, the amount of money that the Nets have spent on them, and the return that they have got from them thus far. And two of the big three now are injured again. It's like it's an old kind of like tale of be careful for what you pay for.
I think,
and how old those players are, and it's in every sport, not just basketball. But I pointed out. Simply because of the insane amount of money that the Nets have invested in this project. And this project is very, very close due to these injuries and due in large part to the age
crashing and burning in the second year.
Crashing and burning in the second year of the amount of money that they've spent.
Yeah, I think, though, that most general managers in the NBA would have taken the same shot to have Durant and Irving, especially a team like the Nets that was looking for legitimacy and wanted to take some shine away from the Knicks. And now you've got this big moment because Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving choose your team and your franchise. I think that most teams in that situation, most general managers, owners in that situation would have done the same thing. Now, there was some criticism after the Harden deal, but then that ended up working out tremendously. Basically, this is injuries that we're talking about, which is not something that is coming out of nowhere. Kevin Durant has been he's the only one left standing right now, but we knew him coming off that Achilles injury was going to be something you had to monitor. Kyrie Irving has always had a history of injury, and I guess James Harden throughout his career has been the healthiest, but he's been struggling mightily to stay healthy this year. But it's not over yet. And if I'm Kevin Durant, I don't look at this because he's someone that we know his personality. We know how edgy he is. We know how much he wants to win. I don't think Kevin Durant's looking at this going, woe is me. I think Kevin Durant is relishing in this opportunity to be the guy to finish off this series and hopefully get his guys back. So I'm not counting him out. I'm not counting his team out. The Bucks are not that scary of a team. Giannis is not that superstar that I think is going to be a closer in this situation. He may, just because the Nets are so shorthanded without those other two guys. But, to think that this series is over because Kyrie went out, to me, I'm not ready to go there yet.
It's teetering. It's teetering
sure,
on being over.
It's definitely teetering.
And quite frankly, as we all know, Kevin Durant to me, is the best player in basketball. I guess you could make an argument for maybe Devin Booker climbing that ladder and also Donovan Mitchell climbing that ladder and obviously the MVP, Jokic. So the thing to me, though, however, I just look at the business of sports and I look at the amount of money that the Nets have spent over the last 2 years. And remember, that first year you got nothing from Kevin Durant. Mm-hmm. So this year you're going to need everything from Kevin Durant to see if he could lift his team out of this kind of like slide that all of a sudden, out of the blue, they're on. Think about these two injuries. You are basically missing two of the top 5 players in basketball.
Well, this is what they've been the entire regular season, so that's why it's not a surprise that it's creeping up to get them again. But so what do you think the spread in tonight's game is? Bucks Nets.
Man, I'm telling you, I without Kyrie and without Harden, I got to believe that the Bucks are favored by 1.5.
The Bucks.
What does your FanDuel app say?
So FanDuel Sportsbook, according to FanDuel Sportsbook, the Bucks are favored by 5.
5, wow.
Tonight on the road. And still somehow, Radimus, wow.
Yeah.
Still somehow, the Nets are the favorite to win the championship slightly now over Milwaukee, believe it or not. Because, the West, you're not exactly sure. You're thinking the Bucks, or because of the loss that the 76ers had to the Hawks, everybody's sort of down on them. So it's the Nets plus 350, the Bucks plus 370.
Utah and Phoenix got good teams, man.
The Utah's plus 380 and the Suns are plus 390. So those four teams are right there.
That's going to be a hell of a Western Conference final, I'm telling you.
For sure.
But, and again, Trae Young went off last night. 18 assists. He didn't shoot that great. At one point, I think, he got off to a really slow start. But 18 assists, 25 points. And Joel Embiid, again, goes back to the locker room. There's something wrong with him, obviously. And he was 0 for 12 in the second half.
Yeah.
And so Trae Young's doing his thing, even when like a guy like him, even when he's not having his sharpest shooting night, he makes happen. So many other people, makes it easy for them because he's working so hard and sees the court. So those guys are tied up at 2 now. But I go back to the amount of money that the Nets have spent here, and they have gone all in. And if I were a Net fan, I'd appreciate that. Look, if I were a Knicks fan, I would appreciate that because I think the Knicks would have done the same thing if they could have, if they wanted to play for the Knicks, but they didn't. But now that you see this and you realize when teams talk about analytics and they talk about ages and they talk about, like in football, let's talk about running backs. Then comes the wide receivers. Those guys lose a lot from when they're 25 years old to when they're 32 years old. By the time they get north of 30, all of a sudden the productivity is not what it once was. And that's why, the analytics is taking over in sports. But in this case, you would think that Irving, I think, is 28. Harden is like 32. And I think, Kevin Durant is around that time as well, around that age as well. But they paid him for not even playing, just to sign a contract.
Well, yeah, to come over to Brooklyn and get healthy for that second year and to be in the position that they're in now.
If you told me that he was going to get to, he's a great player. I don't care, but he's awesome. But if he can elevate his team under the current circumstances right now, I will tell you that last year's contract would be worth it.
Sure,
because you're paying him to be the difference maker, to be the guy that can win games by himself. And unfortunately, now he's got a good supporting cast, not a great supporting cast, but a good one. But without Harden and without Irving, this is where last year's contract, this year's contract, and the next 2 years, which will be $72 million worth of contract, now has to pay dividends. It's just the reality of it.
He's still the best player in this series, and that's what I think is going to be the difference in the long run. It's almost like the basketball gods looked at this and said, this is too easy. This cannot happen this way. You guys got to have some adversity here. You can't all three be healthy in the playoffs. It's not fair.
Let me ask you, this whole thing between Jay Williams and Kevin Durant and the conversation that they had.
Don't compare me to Giannis.
Don't compare me to Giannis. So what is the damage of that conversation being out in the public? Where's that damage come from?
Bulletin board material for Giannis. And
exactly.
Blood in the water, chum in the water.
Exactly. And if I were, Giannis is, he's a proud player, just like they all are. And I do believe that conversation happened. I don't believe that Jay Williams is lying. And I think when he came back and tried to explain why he was saying that conversation, it was a supposed compliment to Kevin Durant. He was trying to say how great Kevin Durant is. But unfortunately, he used Kevin Durant's own words in a negative fashion towards Giannis. And if I were Giannis, believe me, these guys with the social media and everything, they hear everything, they see everything.
He knows what's going on.
And in the NBA, more so than in any other league, they take this stuff to heart.
Sure, they do. Because it's such an individual thing. I understand it's a team game, but one player means so much to his team in the NBA, and these guys compare themselves person to person, player to player. So, but Kevin Durant, man, I tell you, for all the crap talking he's done, all the Twitter stuff, Michael Rappaport, the way he has handled interviews, all right, this is it. This is what you got. It's you and a bunch of other guys. It ain't Harden. It ain't Kyrie Irving, you got Joe Harris there. You've got some players, but it's not the same. So with all the crap talking you've done, all the money you've made, everything that you've wanted to do, want to be the greatest ever, and all that stuff is great. Well, now's your opportunity.
Well, now, and that's the point, and that's the pressure that comes along with it, and I'm sure that Kevin Durant, especially at home, should be up to that pressure. A couple other quick things. The New York Rangers essentially hire Gerard Gallant. He is a coach that has been around for a while. He came from Columbus, Florida, Vegas, took Vegas to the
Coach of the Year with
Stanley
Vegas.
Cup Finals in their inaugural season. He's a no-brainer. This is not like anything out of the box with Chris Drury. I mean, this is probably who Glenn Sather wanted. Mm-hmm. So this was, I think this was done a month ago when everybody was
the
fired.
New boss. Same as the old boss.
Right. So this is the big name. This is the guy. This is the one that everybody wants because he's a good communicator with the players. He plays young players. And if you don't adhere to what he does, he will not be afraid to bench you, as Larry Brooks wrote yesterday. So we all know about the personality, but you never know until they get behind the bench and they start making decisions and you see how your team plays. But I think that the Rangers really felt an enormous amount of pressure to get somebody in here to go against Barry Trotz.
Yeah.
They had to get somebody in here that has a track record, that's been in the NHL, that's been a player, that has been successful with 3 different franchises, works well with younger players, supposedly communicates better with older players, and will not necessarily be a total disciplinarian like, say, a Tortorella would have been. Maybe a little bit easier and a better communicator than Tortorella. But I know he does not talk a lot or give a lot to the media. So this will be interesting how he deals with the media. So this was an easy pick. This is a no-brainer. You could have picked them. I could have picked them. Really where this Chris Drury influence is going to come is going to be how they're going to devise a team and what they feel like they need in order to catch somebody like the Vegas Golden Knights or the Islanders in their own division.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.